Okay, we're going to do some more star practice. This is a play. It's called For Deanna's Eyes Only. Has only 2 characters. And as I kind of briefly look at the first stage directions, I can see this is probably just fiction. The way that we read fiction, we look for a plot diagram, dialogue, characterization, and all the plot elements, theme, conflict, all of those resolution, all of those things. Now, in this specific case, when you see a play, we're going to treat it like fiction. And in this specific play, the questions revolve around theme, dialogue, vocabulary, summary, and conflict. So we're going to keep our kind of brains open for all the elements of plot and vocabulary. Okay, so as we read, we're just it's a short play, so we're gonna annotate it by the scene. So characters, Jonathan is 11 and Deanna is 14. Scene 1. A teenage girl's bedroom. Jonathan sits on the bed reading a diary. He shakes his head, turns a page, and continues reading. Deanna enters and stops short. She stares in disbelief as Jonathan goes on reading, totally oblivious to her presence. Now, I will remind you, the most important thing in a play on the STAR test is reading the stage directions. That tells us how characters are acting, sometimes why they're acting the way that they are. And we need to read the stage directions, not like when we read a play in class where we read them to ourselves and then we read the dialogue. Read everything in your head as one sentence so you understand what's going on. So the scene is being set for us that this girl goes into her room and sees this boy, Jonathan, on her bed reading her diary. He's shaking his head as he's looking at the pages, turning them. She enters and she stops, and she's staring at him in disbelief, and he doesn't even know that she's there. Some vocabulary words: oblivious, unaware that she's even there. Deanna, indignantly, what do you think you're doing? Startled, and he slams the diary shut. What are you doing? Nothing. Let's look at this real quick. Indignantly, we need to know what that word means. Go ahead and stop and look that word up. Okay, as you looked up that word, you should have known that indignantly is not going to be in the dictionary. Remember, the "ly" part is a suffix. Indignant is going to be in there. And it says that it means anger due to an unjust, expression of an unjust or mean. That means that somebody did something to you, it wasn't fair, and you get angry. So she says, what are you doing? He slams the diary shut. What are you doing? Nothing. You're reading my diary. Jonathan, as if he's confused. Diary? Deanna, pointing. That right there in your hands. Jonathan looks down at his hands and reacts as if he is shocked to see something in them. Deanna, oh, cut it out. You know what you were doing. Jonathan, I wasn't reading it. Deanna, I stood here and watched you. I've told you a million times to stay away from my things. Why are you even in my room? Doing you a favor? Snooping around my private things? Like, that's your idea of a favor. I wasn't snooping. I was cleaning up after you. Mom told me to straighten up the family room, and most of the mess was yours. If this diary is so private, why'd you leave it on the couch? So to put my stuff away, you had to read my diary. So right now, I see that's her brother, because he says, Mom told us to clean up. So she knows now, we know now, that these two are brother and sister. That might explain a lot right away, right now. So Jonathan says, No, I didn't even want to read it, but you gave me the impression that you wanted me to, so in total disbelief. What? I gave you the impression that Are you crazy? Well, I figured from what you wrote on the cover. I didn't write for everyone's eyes, especially Jonathan's. I wrote for Deanna's eyes only. That somehow gave you the impression that I wanted you to read it. Well, if you write something like that on a cover and then leave it lying around, what do you expect? I expect people to mind their own business. Oh, that's like putting a plate of brownies on a table and then getting mad when someone eats one. If you really wanted to keep your writing secret, you'd bury it in the middle of some half-used up notebook where nobody but you would even think to look. So it's my fault that you violated my privacy? Here's a word. It's already underlined. We know it's going to be asked about. Jonathan says, it was kind of like false advertising. False advertising? Sure, when you use a phrase like, do not open, or else, the reader is going to expect something riveting, not complaints about the school cafeteria. Riveting. Okay, I don't know. This seems a little weird. He's 11. I like this kid, though, because he uses words like riveting. Let's look it up. Again, you should have noticed that ing, riveting, is not going to be an entry word in the dictionary. It is a suffix. Rivet, will. However, rivet is a multiple meaning word. So you have to go through the first meaning where it's talking about a metal bolt. Obviously, he's not using that in that context. He's using it in definition 2, to engross or to hold the attention. So he's saying that when you put something like don't open, do not open, or else, the reader is going to expect something that's going to hold their attention, not just a complaint about the school cafeteria. Boring. That was just an ad lib. That's not really on the paper. What? I'm just saying that with a title like that, the reader's going to expect some drama, or at the very least, an embarrassing story. From offstage, Deanna's mother calls her to leave for volleyball practice. To Jonathan, this isn't over. Deanna exits, taking the diary with her. Jonathan shrugs and exits after her. All right, I do want to make some notes throughout this scene, so go back through, and just kind of highlight points that maybe exposition and rising action. Okay, so you should have noted that this is the setting. Scene 1 is in her room as she comes in and sees him reading the diary. The rising action is that he is in there reading it. Remember, conflict is introduced usually during the rising action. It kind of gets the party started. You figure out what's the problem going on. Jonathan is reading Deanna's diary without permission. That's the conflict, the whole problem in this story so far. So we found out that that's her brother, and that might explain a few things. Now, what I wanted you to understand is that this word violated, it's already defined for us in one of the questions. So I'm not going to look it up because it's going to give me a definition already, and I have to figure out how it's being used in this sentence. So when I look at violated, so it's my fault that you violated my privacy. We're going to revisit that, but I'm not going to define it right now because it's already defined. Now, we already defined riveting, because rivet means to hold the attention. And at the end of scene 2, he's not sorry about it. He's kind of saying, hey, your fault. You're the one that left it out here. She's angry and she leaves. Scene 2 is going to be in another setting. This is in the family room, and Jonathan is watching TV. Deanna enters with the diary and sits on the couch opposite Jonathan. Okay, let me hear it. Hear what? Amazed. The apology that you owe me for reading my diary? Duh. Oh, that. I was kind of a sneak to read it behind your back. Yeah, you were. You want to know the real reason I started reading it? Okay, why did you? Well, lately it's like I've been invisible to you. What are you talking about? We do stuff all the time. We used to do stuff all the time. Have you even read your own diary? Look how this word is italicized. You need to emphasize that. We used to do things all the time. He's trying to tell her something by using that italics to emphasize they don't do it anymore. Have you even read your own diary? Well, no, I've just been writing in it about your friends and school and Jeremy and that's it. I'm not in it anywhere. Take a look. You won't even find my name. Looks at the diary in her hands. I guess I've been busy, but that still doesn't give you the right to read my private diary. I know, and I'm sorry, but I just had to find out if you were mad at me. Sighs. I'm not mad at you. I've just been preoccupied. I've been so busy with my first year of high school, just trying to keep up and fit in. She pauses for a moment. But if you promise not to read my diary anymore, I promise to do something with you at least once a week from now on. Okay, sounds good to me. Pauses. But you may want to keep your diary in your own room, just in case. Both exit the stage. After all, he is her brother. He's probably going to do it again. Okay, so go ahead back and just kind of make notes in scene 2, how things have changed. So you should have noted that the change in scenery really is a change in the way that they're feeling towards each other. He admits that he was wrong. I was kind of a sneak. He confesses the reason why he's been reading her diary is because he feels left out. He says, he needed to know if she was mad at him because they used to do things and now they don't anymore. He is the little brother. And he says he's sorry that he did that. And then she also makes a confession that she's been busy. It's her first year of high school and how different that must be for her. So she makes a promise to him to make time for him if he says that he's not going to read her diary. And he says yes, and then he makes a little joke at the end. Remember the conflict? Reading the diary without permission? Right here is the resolution. Remember, the conflict is the problem. The resolution, usually the problem is solved or somehow gets resolved. This is how it got resolved. He's not going to read her diary if she gives him time, if they spend time together. So this is the resolution, and it also resolves the conflict that he made a promise to her, and she made a promise to him. Okay, it was a very short play. There are 6 questions that go with this. Again, this right here, answer all of these questions correct, and that just gives you another 6 questions to get commended, to pass the STAR test. Remember, the easier that you find the stories, the better you're able to answer the questions. Refer back to your notes as you are looking for them. Remember, it focuses on theme, dialogue, vocabulary, summary of one particular scene. Read the question entirely and conflict. Okay, guys, good luck.